when we buy a new camera, we almost invariably get a kit lens with the camera. And these kit lenses are not too long, and they're not too wide. They're not too slow, but equally they're not too fast. And they're not too sharp, but equally they're not too soft. In fact, these kit lenses you get with these cameras, I'd say like Goldilocks cameras, because they're do-everything cameras and provide a really good starting point for your photography. More often than not, we kind of sneer at these kit lenses thinking, oh, they're not very good, or they're not very this and not very that. And that's mainly because when we bought ourselves a new lens, when we got into our hobby, we've upgraded our lenses, we've bought a new one, then we kind of discard these lenses as being any good. But the truth is, if you look at all the photos you've taken, and me, and all of us, most of those photos, 80% of the photos we take are with this kit lens. So these are, without a doubt, the most important lenses we own. So I've managed to get hold of the Nikon D5000 again, and a while ago I did a review on this camera. Perhaps I was a little bit, or I wasn't as positive about this camera as I could have been. And if you want to have a look at the review that I've done of this camera, you can click up there and there's a link there that you can sort of have a look at the review of this camera. But in this video, what I plan to do is have a look at this 1855 lens on this Nikon D5000 and just give you the view, my view, of what I think of this 1855 lens, this kit lens, that the sort of lens that we all own. In doing so, I've also got a Canon 1855 lens. I'm not going to compare them, but I'm going to use them as comparative lenses, even though I'm not going to go through all the specs of those lenses. So if you're interested in this lens, if you're interested in this camera, or if you're interested in the views that I have of these kit lenses, then by all means, follow on and watch what I think. I've come out to this woodland area, which is close to where I live, for a couple of reasons. One is that I didn't really want to get in the car and travel long distances to do this video. And the other reason is because our Instagram challenge community is at the end of a challenge to take a picture of leaves, and I'd like to sort of find some leaves in this little woodland area to take some pictures of leaves and show my skills with the camera. So I'm intending to use the Nikon D5000 with the 1855 kit lens to take some shots of leaves while I'm here in this woodland, and hopefully that will give us a nice sort of set of images to just have a look at the quality of this lens and see if it's any good. The lens itself is the AFS Nikkor mount, and the lens is the Nikon DX VR 1855 3.5 to 5.6 G2G, with the VR standing for vibration reduction, which is stabilization to most of us, and the G in the 2G is gilded. It must be because it's gold lettering, I'm imagining. As the lens pops out, it goes from 3.5 at 80mm to 5.6 at 55mm. As you can see on the lens itself, it's got a couple of buttons. One is VR for vibration reduction on or off. You want to turn the stabilization on or off. And it's also got an auto or a manual focus button, so you can easily take it in and out of manual focus by just flicking that switch, which is really helpful because obviously, as you know, with this Nikon D5000, it's only got so many focus points. So if you can't get focus because you're trying to focus in something really closely, you can easily flick it to manual focus and it will focus. This lens will focus nicely. The lens itself has got 11 elements in 8 groups, which is not bad actually, and you need those elements, or you need those groups to give you the space inside the lens to be able to zoom in or out and obviously change to focus. It's got one aspherical lens, and an aspherical lens is really important inside a lens because a normal spherical lens will give you both a soft focus and a sharp focus, but it also provides a soft focus. But a spherical lens also provides the chromatic aberration, the color fringing you get on the edge of your image, on the edge of lines. Well, using an aspherical lens cuts out a lot of that color cast you get on images, but it also really helps with sort of distortion. So when you get barrel distortions, those sorts of things, an aspherical lens which is shaped much differently to a normal spherical lens, helps to eliminate that. It doesn't get it perfect, but it eliminates it quite a lot. So it's really important that it's got one of those lenses. So other lenses have sort of, you know, more than one, but one is at least the minimum of what you need. One aspherical lens is really important. What's also neat about this lens, it has a retractable barrel, so you can press this button here on the side. Hopefully that focuses all right there, look. And you can sort of press that button and the lens retracts into a nice small unit, and you can press that button and it extends out nice and fully if you need it. What that means is obviously it's going to be a smaller lens once it's closed down, and you put it in your bag and it takes up a lot less space, which is really cool. The filter thread is 52mm, so if you wanted to put any filters on the front, it's 52mm, just so you know. And the minimum focusing distance is 0.28 of a metre, so it's fairly close. So you can see, despite the fact this is a kit lens, it does a reasonable effort of doing almost macro, but obviously not quite macro, but it doesn't, you know, really quite close with 0.28 of a metre focusing range, which is fab. The lens has 7 aperture blades, which means if you're doing night photography, and I've done a video on night photography if you're interested, and you want to get those diffraction spikes, those light stars, then you'll get 14 diffraction spikes for your light star, which is great, because if you've got an odd number of blades in your lens, you get twice as many diffraction spikes. On an even number of blades, each diffraction spike cancels itself out, so you won't get 12 because it's an even number. But because it's got 7 aperture blades, what that means is that when it's wide open, you've got a much better chance of getting nice round bokeh balls. So if you're trying to do a photo and trying to get some bokeh in the background, those lovely little bokeh balls, the more blades you have in the lens, the more chance of that aperture is going to be circular, and that means you'll get nice, clean or cleaner circular bokeh balls, which is really awesome. The lens itself weighs just under 200 grams, and if you happen to buy a Nikon camera without a lens, if you bought body only, which often happens if you buy them second hand, then you might, if you're looking to buy one of these yourself, then they're going for around roughly about £60 or $60 in the second hand website. So they're not expensive by any means at all. It's super light, as I mentioned. It's less than 200 grams, and part of the reason of that is made of polycarbonate, so it's pretty much plastic. If you can get that in focus, you'll see that it's got a plastic mount too. So it's pretty much a plastic polycarbonate lens, which is fine. The plastics you get in these lenses these days are really, really high quality, and they're super light. So it's perfectly fine, and it sort of fits exactly the needs that you want from it. So how does the lens compare to its contemporaries? Well, I've got the Canon equivalent, the 1855 Canon kit lens in my hand here, and I've got the Nikon 1855 here as well. And they're roughly the same size. I can tell you, looking at the specs, the Canon's got the same number of elements and the same number of groups. However, it's got 6 blades, so obviously and it's better for the Nikon to have more aperture blades than the Canon. But they've got the same aperture range. They're pretty much identical in all sense and purposes. They've both got a single aspherical lens, and I would say they'd get pretty much exactly the same results. So I'd say they're on par. They're kind of standard 1855, plastic bodied or polycarbonate bodied. Both got polycarbonate plastic mounts. They're both pretty identical, really. There's probably nothing to separate these two lenses apart from the aperture blades. Technically, they're the specs of the lens. That's kind of all the numbers that you would want to look at on this lens. But how does it perform? How good is the lens in the real world taking pictures? I'm in this woodland today, and what I plan to do is try to find some images of some leaves and try to get some nice pictures of some foliage. So what I'll do is I'll take some photos of this lens around this woodland, take some pictures of leaves. Hopefully I can do it justice, and hopefully it can do justice for me. And I expect that we'll see a reasonably good quality lens that's a good all-round lens that will provide us with lots of nice pictures. I'm just setting my first shot up with the D5000, and how often do you come out without a memory card in the camera, which is exactly what's happened to me just now, which is really frustrating. But it's a good job that I actually always come out with my little pouch of spare memory cards, even though it's only got a few 2 GB memory cards, not very big, but it'll get me by and I'll be able to take the picture. So there's a tip for you really, for whenever you go out, always have some spare memory cards in your bag, because how often do we go out without a card in the camera, our main card, our big card? So at least it gets you by and enables you to take your photos. So I'm just going to try and take this first shot now of this leaf. I'm just setting my camera up as I speak. My first shot is this simple image of these leaves. I'm going 1/25th of a second, f5.6, and I've kept the distance quite far to try to get a more blurry background. I'll take this shot and let's see how this goes. I've seen a tiny spider on a web just beside some leaves, and it provides a great test for the macro capabilities. Not that the lens is macro, and also it's autofocus. And I think for this image, I'm having to use manual focus because the autofocus just hunts around too much and can't pinpoint that spider. And I'll take that shot now and I'll show you what that looks like afterwards. This image is just a simple picture of these grasses. I love the fact that these white grasses, these rushes are against a blue sky. It looks amazing. So I'm just going to take a straight picture, vertical, of these grasses, and let's see how this comes out. I was hoping to come across some flowers, and I found these what look like wild daisies to me. I've gone for f6.3 and I've got a 1/800th of a second shutter speed, and that's because these are flapping around so much in this light breeze that obviously I'll miss the focus. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take these now and we can have a look at them in a minute. I just love the idea of the nice blue background behind the flowers in the sky, and it contrasts really well with the yellow flowers. Obviously, the proof of the pudding will be in the picture, and we're testing this lens, so let's see what this looks like. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, why don't you give it a like? I've come out in the freezing cold with all my winter clothing on to bring this nice little review of the 1855 lens. So you could repay me by clicking the like button. That would be wonderful. And if you like this content, these reviews, and I actually really enjoy making them, if you like them and you want to see more, why don't you subscribe to the channel? That would really, really be great and make my day. And thank you if you have already. Once again, thank you very much indeed, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.